Kurt managed to bring Mr. Mulligan back to the bench in one piece, looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Interesting day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It really was. We reviewed several planes today, and Mr. Mulligan actually turned out to be our
surprise.
Problem child.
Yeah.
It was a problem child, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah,
but
it was.
It took us, it wanted more of our attention than we wanted to give it, I think.
We saw it.
You put it out there and it was like, oh, it's a high wing, it's going to be great, it's going to be fine. And it's like, no. You need to take me seriously. I'm a race plane.
Yeah,
so.
my body's wider than my wingspan.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the 5x5 review.
Sounds good.
Start with model characteristics. Build as advertised. You gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, everything went together pretty well. The directions were very, I mean, they're always pretty comprehensive whenever you get a hold of a Great Plains product. A couple things that I had to kind of shuffle and bump around. Really in the manufacturing process, my right aileron or my right flap didn't want to retract fully and lay level with the trailing edge of the wing. So I had to do some fiddling around with that to get it to pop up into place properly. And other than that, it was just kind of nudging things into place. The rudder, when you get things lined up on the rudder against the vertical stabilizer, you either have a choice of being a little high on the body lines, or being a little low on the tip. I chose to go a little low on the tip to get it to fit in properly. And I also had to kind of drill out the rod that connects the steerable tail wheel.
Yeah.
That rod that went inside of the rudder had to be, that hole had to be augered out so I could slip that up a little bit.
It's interesting you brought that up because I think that's starting to shed some light on the first couple landings. All right, let's go to...
I don't think it had a thing to do with those first couple landings.
I was trying to give you an angle.
Yeah, no. Can't blame it on the plane.
Finish, 5 out of 5.
Yeah, and the end result is a beautiful plane.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a very beautiful plane.
And it's so much more attractive in person than it is when you see it online, or it just doesn't. The pictures don't do it justice.
Yeah.
When you really get in front of the model and you start looking at all the details, and then you get it up in the air, and it looks like a scale plane.
Yeah,
it looks like the real thing flying in front of you.
It did.
So.
Power, 4.5 out of 5.
The power combination that was given to us by Great Plains, by ElectriFly or Habaco or the whole group. The collective group,
yes.
As they sent over our test model. We had the Rimfire 32, and we also received the Flight Power Eon X30 battery. So it's a 4350 milliamp 4S LiPo, so you're running 14.8 volts. I would say hands down, if you're putting together a 32 size power combination on any plane, and you want sport type handling, maybe not 3D handling, but sport handling, this combination gives you amazing power and ridiculous run times.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
Yes.
But very, very nice power combination. I think perfectly suited for good sport aerobatics with the Mr. Mulligan.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's get into ground handling. This is where it starts to get a little grounded a little bit.
Yeah, just a wee tad bit.
3.5 out of 5. You had, I wouldn't say problem taking off. What I noticed was you were getting a lot of that. As soon as the tail got up in the air, you were starting to get some of this going on. Yeah, well, when I first took off the plane, I had to shift the main battery to get the balance off to the right-hand side a little more than what I had it, and I also had the CG. The thing that really affects this plane a lot, with any plane, is the CG. Of course, the way the body's designed, the way the airframe's designed, it's going to trick you into thinking it really doesn't care how far forward or back. Yeah.
You go off the recommended balance points, and you move the battery an inch forward, and it moves the tail about a ½ inch. Excuse me. You move it aft, and it moves it about a ½ inch. So you think, my gosh, this is a huge CG. It's just gigantic.
It's not.
It isn't, but it's not going to give you a clear indication.
Exactly.
So you definitely want this thing to be balanced level. You want your CG, your balance right on the nose, nice and level with Mr. Mulligan. If you have it slightly forward, it's going to come in like a pig, and it's going to take off like it's stuck to the ground, like there's something holding it down. And you're also going to have to trim the crap out of it in the air to pull the nose back up. So it was really doing some crazy things on me a little bit with that balance. And I did lateral balance on the bench, but the way it flew is it flew like it was heavy on the left-hand side. The end result is, not to drag on, was I had to trim it pretty heavy to get it to fly level the first flight up. We brought it back down immediately and said, something's going on. Let's adjust the battery around. Let's just check it out.
It almost acted as, I mean, you would think by watching you fly and how much trim that you had a warped wing.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Yeah, it felt like the wing had a twist to it. We know it didn't. Everything was nice and straight. So brought it down, scooted the battery aft a little bit and off to the right-hand side as far as we could take it. And when we put it back, I zeroed the trims again. When we put it back up in the air, it was beautiful.
Your takeoff roll was smoother and everything.
The takeoff roll was nice. The landings, however, for ground handling, it's short coupled. We've talked about that. And it is a handful. With the slight uplift on the edge of the wings, the wingtips, and with this extremely short wingspan.
And
This thing is a handful on landing.
Surprisingly, you were landing in a slight headwind, which always is a benefit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And this did not want to settle in.
No,
at
it
all.
didn't. Now I can tell you, I went slightly beyond the spec flap throws, and I'm glad I did because I ran full flaps on landing, slowed it down nice. I was able to push some more power into it, stay comfortably out of that tip stall range. What you're going to find is this thing has a very sharp cliff at the end of its stall speed.
Yeah.
And when it goes over that cliff, it's done. And if you try to reapply power, no matter how smoothly, you're going to torque roll right into a wingtip. So this thing is a handful on landing. It really, really is. It's definitely, I mean, it comes in like a biplane, but then it doesn't behave like a biplane when you get it down to the ground. It goes a little nuts on you. So.
Your frustration level was increasing and increasing and increasing.
It was, I was frustrated myself because I had to learn. I had to learn how this thing wanted me to land it. And it literally took about 6 attempts to get a decent landing on it. And we found out the durability, though, on the last bad attempts. So.
Yes, we did. So that leads us to durability.
Durability.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Yeah, it took. We sprung the landing gear pretty hard on one of the landings. I say we. You notice how I just.
I was holding the camera and nothing.
I brought it down pretty heavy on the mains and really sprung them out, flexed them out, and they came right back. But it did crack the one skirt that's going up the top of the landing gear. Yeah. Which I'm glad I only glued one side of it. If I'd have glued both, it probably would have ripped it all the way around. So. But it held up pretty well, and then we hit the edge of the grass one time because you have no tail authority as that thing's making its transition. Yeah. So it kind of rolled over to the edge of the runway and just went boop up on its nose, and it didn't do any damage to it at all. So pretty durable plane.
Well, let's get into pilot experience, Kurt. It's not that we haven't talked about that.
We actually kind of covered a lot of that, so we're going to briefly.
Flight is advertised 4 out of 5.
Yeah, it's a race plane. And if you look up if you do any research on your scale planes before you fly them, a lot of people tell you that this particular aircraft, the Mr. Mulligan, was not the most friendly flyer. It wasn't. It was a handful in the air. It had some bad tendencies, but then those also lend it to the long distance runs and being the racer that it was. So, and that's usually the way it is. I mean, you don't want to jump in an F1 race car and try to take it down to your local.
This is one of those planes
grocery store. It's going to handle like crap. So.
Exactly. This is one of those planes when you get it up in the air and you start flying it, and it'll fly.
Yeah.
It'll cut a beautiful line. Yes. It'll do everything you want it to. Where it starts to show its ugly side is when you try to land.
Yeah. When you try to slow things down is when it starts getting mad.
Things down, you got it. And really looking at that wing with that fuse, and it kind of gives you a heads up.
And up front we said, what's it going to be like? It's going to be a little prone to tip stalling. Actually, what the problem was is you have one flare, which most planes do, but if you miss that one flare and try to level out and get a little bit of power on and try it again, it's going over. It's going over on its right side. So just be prepared. Give yourself plenty of run out the first time. Come in kind of hot. Keep the tail up and run on the mains for a while and bring the mains down when you land it. If you try to 3-point this thing, it's gonna
bite you.
Yep.
It's gonna bounce right up in the air, look at you, and then go smash.
Yeah, yeah, and all your great detail work on the cowl is going to be done for us. So.
Flight time, 5 out of 5. We got a lot of flight out of this.
Fantastic.
That, like you had mentioned earlier, with that combination,
you can actually, if you don't go crazy on it, you can comfortably expect 10+ minute flights on this aircraft.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I really do.
And we were messing around with it and going crazy and got 8. So yeah.
Field size, large field. This thing takes some room. It's a big plane.
It's a big plane. This is a liability. Take it to an airfield and it's got insurance and do the right thing.
Especially when you're the one standing there holding the camera. And anyhow, that wasn't even part of the conversation. Was
I don't think that pertains to the 5x5 review.
Portability, 4 out of 5.
It's a bigger plane. It's pretty short though, so you can spin it sideways in a lot of SUVs and stuff. It's going to fit pretty well. But it's a balsa plane, so you got to be aware of the covering and hangar damage, stuff like that.
Skill level, advanced.
Yeah, this is an advanced plane. It's not an advanced plane to fly in the air. What you're going to notice is rudder. As soon as you throw some rudder in, it feels like it wants to get snappy on you. And it's probably, again, that short fuselage. It feels like it wants to start snapping really, really quick on you. So short throws on the rudder, pretty easy for a beginner to overcompensate if they're just a new 4-channel flyer. They're going to want to keep those flat turns, real nice flat turns in place. And they're going to find that it's wanting to walk itself up into a hard bank as they use their rudder. So you're going to want to get used to that in those landings, man. This is not a beginner and even an intermediate landing plane. As a tail dragger, you got to bring it in with the right angle or the right attitude. Yeah. And that transition from level landing on the mains and settling in to the tail touching and coming to the stop it's a lesson. It's a lesson and hairy flight characteristics or ground handling characteristics. But once you get it down, you learn it. It's consistent.
Yeah.
It's very consistent.
Yeah.
So once you learn that envelope of pushing through into ground effect and doing that last quick final flare, it'll slow down pretty nice. And we actually got a pretty slow landing on film.
Yeah.
That we can
And
show.
you know, this is one of those planes that even despite its flight characteristics in certain parts of the flight,
Yep.
it's looks so good in the air.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a
looks
fun flyer.
It flew fine. I didn't fly it, you
Yep.
did, but it just looked good in the air, and it looked like it was enjoyable to throw around in the sky.
Absolutely. This isn't your Sunday flyer kind of thing
No.
where, I haven't flown it in a while, I'm going to throw it out.
You want to be on your game.
You want to be sharp that day to go out and fly
Yeah.
because it'll wake you up.
Yeah.
It'll remind you that you're not paying enough attention to it when you bring
Yeah.
it down. So that wraps up our review of the Mr. Mulligan. You can go to the website at tobefly.com and take a look at the full review. On the bottom left corner of every screen, you'll see the Ask To icon. If you have any questions that aren't answered by the review or by the threads that build up underneath it, just send us a message and we'll get back with you in a couple of business days and try to get you taken care of. I'm Kurt.
And I'm Rob. Thanks for watching.